Hi everyone, and welcome to this presentation on movement and the brain, applications for writing students. For some of you, this might be new and surprising information, but I want to show you some research that's been done recently and show you how it might actually apply to you as writing students and improve your writing practice. So let's begin. So what does movement have to do with learning? The fact is that research has shown it has everything to do with learning. There is a direct connection between exercise and increased brain power. So you might be very skeptical still at this point. You might be asking yourselves, no, but really, why does this matter? What does this have to do with writing? If you recall in my welcome letter, I quoted David McCullough, who said, "Writing is thinking. To write well is to think clearly. That's why it's so hard." So in very basic terms to start with, if we can have increased brain health, then that should automatically help us to think more clearly and then help us in our writing practice. So before we go on, let's actually move, all right? And so I'm going to do this with you. So everybody, let's stand up. And let's take a deep breath, reach up to the sky, inhale, and exhale, reach down and touch your toes, stretch, stretch. Stand up again, all right? We're gonna run in place for 30 seconds. Ready? And go. Don't forget to breathe here. Keep breathing, keep moving. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's come on back, everybody. Okay, hopefully you feel energized, get the blood and energy going. All right, so you're thinking a little bit more clearly. Okay, so let's look at the first way that movement impacts our learning, or the first reason why. And the fact is that movement and learning share real estate in the brain. They use the same part of the brain. So anything that happens in the way that we process movement, it uses the same part of the brain as the part that processes anything that we learn. So the second way that movement impacts learning is that it helps us to actually grow a bigger and faster brain. When we are born, we have many more brain cells than we do as adults, so we lose brain cells over time. And scientists have found that one of the activities that makes the biggest impact on brain health and that actually creates new brain cells is physical exercise. So physical exercise promotes neurogenesis, and it helps keep those brain cells healthy and nimble and able to function very easily, very well, keeps them nice and healthy. All right, the third reason that, or the third way that movement impacts learning is that physical exercise creates this environment in the brain that is perfectly suited for learning, and it does that in a couple of ways. First of all, when we exercise, we get a release of dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter that makes us feel really good, and it increases our ability to learn. Let's skip down to this third one. Exercise also reduces anxiety. So it helps promote these new brain cells. It decreases anxiety, releases dopamine, which helps us to feel good. So there are all these reasons that exercise, or all these ways that exercise actually helps create this perfect environment for learning in our brain. So I want to read this sentence about some research that was done in Chicago. Research about standardized testing at a school near Chicago linked increases in learning to how closely scheduled reading or math classes were to a rigorous morning exercise program. Students who had no exercise program scored the lowest. So there are a couple of things going on in this research. One, the students who were not in this exercise program had the lowest scores out of all the students. But they also noticed some differences between the students who were in exercise programs, and it had to do with the timing, how close their exercise programs were to their reading and math classes, which is where the standardized testing was done. So it's not just about physical exercise, but it's also about the timing of that physical exercise in relation to the kind of activity or the skill that we're trying to develop. All right, the fourth impact that movement makes on learning is that studies have found that students who exercise do better in school. So not only do students have better physical motor fitness, right, when they're involved in physical exercise. So they get stronger, they're better body movement, but their academic performance also can increase, and they have better attitudes towards school. Studies have also shown that students who are taught kinesthetically, or they're taught through movement, they're more engaged and they remember things more. All right, the fifth way that movement, or the fifth reason why movement and learning have a connection, is that the mind and body really are inseparable. So I love this quote here: "Our most permanent home is our body. This is our vehicle," right? So what happens in one shows up in the other in some sort of way. What happens in the body happens to the brain, to the mind. What happens in the mind shows up in the body in some sort of way. So there are two sides of this coin. All right, so I want you to take the next 13 minutes or so and watch this TED Talk by Dr. Wendy Suzuki, who actually is a brain researcher, a neurologist, I believe, and she talks about what she found in her research about exercise and the way that it impacts the brain. So I'm going to stop here and pause here to give you some time to watch this. You can click on the link here or the link here, okay? All right, I hope you enjoyed that TED Talk. She's really fun and energetic, and her research is really fascinating. So I hope you were inspired by it. So I want to show you this beautiful picture next. This is a high-definition fiber tracking map of some brain fibers, or essentially these are neural pathways. This is about 1 million that scientists have been able to actually track. This is only a fraction of the kind of neural pathways of all the activity that's going on in the brain. But as you can see, it is a beautiful sight to see all of this activity everywhere. And all of this is what's helping us stay alive, and it's what's enabling you to watch and listen and understand this presentation at this moment. So right now, I want you to take a deep breath and offer some gratitude for your brain, because it's a beautiful thing up here. All right, so now what? Now I want to show you some ways in which this information can help you in your writing practice, how this applies for writing students, or applies to writing students. Okay, so I want you to consider exercising, not just to stay healthy, but exercising in order to help you write better. So I'm going to offer some tips, or invite you to consider doing some things in your daily practice, and to help you to write better. One of those is just if you're not involved in a regular exercise routine, I invite you to start doing something that you enjoy. cardio has been found to be the most effective kind of exercise at influencing the brain, but really it's important to just do something that you enjoy and incorporate it into your daily routine. As the research from Chicago showed, the closer you exercise to the time you spend in class, the greater impact that can have on your ability to learn and retain information. So consider exercising before or after you work on the material for this class, or before you write, before or after you write. You might also consider forming some kind of study or exercise group with if it's not possible with classmates, consider starting an exercise group with friends or family to help kind of check in with each other and really support each other and ask for support in your own brain health and writing. If you can't exercise outside, for some of you that might not actually be possible, you might consider going to a gym or some kind of indoor facility, maybe on your roof, or just find some place that actually works for you. And if you're like me or like anybody else, really, you are going to experience writer's block. And so when that happens, I invite you to take a break, let it go, and do some kind of form of exercise. Shake things up a little bit, dance in your living room, go for a walk or a bike ride or a swim or a hike or anything to just get you moving, and then come back and see if you notice a difference. All right. One last thing. I want to show you some tips for decreasing the amount of stress that you feel in your writing practice. And some of these are from my own experience as well as the research. So studies have shown that one of the best ways that you can increase or improve your writing is to read. Read, read, read. Anything and everything, and especially read the kind of work that you want to be able to write. So really the question is, how can you know what good writing looks like if you've never even seen it, right? So if you want to write better academically, read academic writing, okay? Natalie Goldberg said, if you read good books, when you write, good books will come out of you, because that's what you're familiar with, that's what you know. I also want to invite you to create a writing space, whether that's physical or mental. Choose something that is comfortable for you, inspiring. So one thing that really works for me is not necessarily going to a library, but going to a cafe, somewhere where I can have something nice to drink and something nice to eat, where it's comfortable. I'll bring my computer, or I'll bring a notebook, and or I'll bring my phone and I'll record my thoughts, either in texting. I'll take notes, or I will record myself speaking. Some of you, that might work, that might not, but whatever it is, I want you to create a space that works for you. All right. The next tip is to, let's move this up here, do your research and collect the kind of information you need. So like Sholem Asch said, writing is a lot easier if you have something to say. And you'll have something to say, more likely, if you actually do your research and find out what's going on in the field that you are writing. All right, here are just a few more tips. The next one is to take notes. A lot of times, the way that we think about things, it's not chronological. Things are often out of order. I know that's very true for me. Sometimes I'll have a great idea for something in the middle of what I'm writing. Sometimes I'll have a great idea for the beginning or the end, and it's just jumbled up. But if you can take notes and you can write down these ideas, then you don't have to worry about thinking of everything in order as all at once. You can go back to your notebook, and then you can start to organize things from that. So consider taking a notebook or taking notes on your phone. Whenever you have an idea, write it down. The next tip is to choose to write about topics that truly interest you. And The last one, give yourself permission to write crappy first drafts. Okay, there's no great writing, only great rewriting. This is very true. So, which tips do you want to try? And can you think of any others? So, happy writing.